All right, can you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and good evening. Tonight is Tuesday, August 15th. It's 7:30, a little after. We just came from executive session where we discussed negotiations update and airport garage leasing update. The first item on our agenda is considering the appointment of a staff assistant, finance and administration.
Okay, resolved that Jennifer Leiter of 202 East, I'm assuming that's Graydon, if not it's Garden Road, Larchmont, New York, is hereby appointed to the position of staff assistant, finance and administration with the Village of Rybrook, subject to civil service procedures of the state of New York, according to the conditional offer letter dated August 2nd, 2023, and be it further resolved that the annual salary is $75,000 with an effective start date of August 16th.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
Second.
Great. I know we had promoted her, and then we were waiting, couldn't make it official till she passed the civil service exam.
Correct, and she was had a great score on that and was immediately reachable promotionally, and we're excited to see this next step, and allows us to then fill the other vacancy in our finance and finance office, which is sorely needed. So it's a great promotional opportunity for her. She's a really hard worker and does a great job for us for many years. And again, now we'll fill her position. We'll be hopefully at full staffing soon in that department.
I agree with everything Chris just said, and congratulations to Jen. Any other comments from the board?
I just called her today to congratulate her, and she was sad that she couldn't be here tonight. So,
I understand, yes.
But so I'm really glad that she's part of our team, and really happy for her that she finally is in that position.
David?
No, I was just going to say Jennifer's fabulous.
All right.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Congratulations. Resolution number 2, considering a request of an extension exemption of Chapter 158, Section 2.1 of the Village Code regarding seasonal leaf blower ban for Washington Park Plaza. And we already had this open, or?
This is a resolution that we had on the last agenda. I could just move to the resolve clause or summarize it, and then the board asked us to ask the owner of the property and the representatives to meet on site and look at some of the equipment that the village has and compare it with the equipment they have now, and look at the different types of options that are out there, and to put it on tonight's agenda, put it back on tonight's agenda for consideration.
Right.
So no action was taken at the last meeting, other than to ask the applicant to, review a few items.
Okay, so we didn't have any motion or?
Nope.
Okay.
We have to redo it. Even if we did, we didn't act on it, so we should do it again.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
So I'll just summarize it. On April 11th of 2023, the village enacted a seasonal gas-powered leaf blower ban from May 1st to September 30th, effective next May, on May 1st, 2024. And that particular code also allows properties with at least 5 acres of property can apply for the village for a full or partial extension or exemption of the local law. And whereas an application has been distributed to all the eligible properties, and whereas representatives of Washington Park Plaza submitted an application on July 5th for an exemption from the requirements of the local law requiring a seasonal ban on gas-powered leaf blowers, now therefore be resolved that after consideration of the intent of the local law, as well as the considerations raised in the application from representatives of Washington Park Plaza, the Village of Rybrook trustees hereby either approves, denies, or approves with conditions the request for an exemption of the village code enacting a seasonal leaf blower ban for Washington Park Plaza, and be it further resolved, if it is conditionally approved, that the following conditions will be put in place. If there are any, then the board would talk about it tonight.
All right, thank you, Chris. And I guess we'll hold off on motion seconds because we're not sure what
Sure, you can do that.
we're voting on quite yet.
Let's see what you got there.
So I think we have representatives from Washington Park Plaza. If you'd like
Is
to.
it 15th?
Yes, all day. Can you believe it? Summer's going.
14th. I gotta pay my taxes.
If you could just talk into the mic a little bit, that would be helpful.
No problem.
Thank you.
We had the test done. Most of you were there. I wasn't too happy with the results. I was hoping they would be a little bit better. The machines did not last as long as they stated they were going to last. Just the fact of having the electric and the cost of the electric to run, it doesn't equal the time that we're going to spend additional to do it that way as it does with the gas blowers. So,
I know you're looking at me, but do you want me to summarize kind of what we did out in the field?
Sure, please, Chris.
So the other day, was that only yesterday? Wow.
Yesterday.
Wow. Yesterday, we went on site at Washington Park. We went to the shopping center. What they use the leaf blower there, just it's a little one of the larger properties over 5 acres, a little bit different. You know, in Washington Park, some of the things that have been raised by the applicant is that what they use them for is a parking lot. I mean, but most of it is garbage and debris that ends up in the parking lot. And I believe you said you use them 6 days a week, just not Sundays, right?
yeah, Sundays now.
And just the configuration is that the lot from basically generally the front of the facing of the supermarket is where the Rybrook and Portchester line begins and ends. Goes into from Rybrook is from basically the face of the supermarket forward to Ridge Street. So we went on site. We brought our equipment over there, our leaf blower, which are both the applicant's gas powered and the village's electric ones are all backpack blowers. So they put them kind of side by side. They had left one running to see how long it would run for. They put Michael Nowak coordinated this along with Greg Rivera, and they put different types of materials out in the parking lot to see how it would work. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn by saying in the electric at Turbo, things were moved pretty well on the parking lot. You know, things would move off the parking lot. It would work if it stayed for a longer length of time. In a turbo mode, which is a higher setting, it lasted about 25 minutes, and then it drops down when it reaches a certain level of charge. It then steps down a level, so it went down to a next high level instead of a turbo level. And then it dropped down, it stepped down maybe another time or two, and it lasted about 45 minutes to be about the full length of a charge. So that's what the applicant is talking about tonight, the concerns with the length. So do they work? They work. Do they work for a shorter length of time than gas? Absolutely. Is there a different impact? So the policy issues that the board has to consider is obviously the operational issues that the applicant is raising in this particular case. Could they maintain the parking lot with electric, and versus the benefits of environmental benefits, which primarily are noise and emissions. So that's the policy questions that the board and the applicant are all weighing.
It sounded like a shop vac.
It was definitely quieter. I mean, I would say it was definitely quieter than the gas blowers.
Yes, yeah, definitely quieter. But the thing is, it doesn't last. And for the course that you have to do to put in, and the results you're going to get, I don't think it's even worth it. And they're already doing generation 1, generation 2, so even the one that the town has, it's already upgraded, and Mike had it for a month, and they already upgraded it to another generation because they're making improvements. We jumped on the bandwagon a long time ago. I explained that to you last time we were here, and the battery back then was doing like 10 or 15 minutes at best, at full throttle. And to do the parking lot, you just can't go with low throttle because you're not going to blow anything. Because between the leaves, the debris, the sand, the salt, it's the normal stuff that's on the ground, the electric just can't hold to that, And even with a full charge, within 15, 20 minutes, you drop down to a medium speed. Just for the time alone, I'll be there 3 times the amount of time that I'm there now. So who's going to pay for that? The owner has to pay for that.
Deal.
I forget, how long do you actually do this every morning?
Approximately a good hour if the place is bad, with the blowers. I mean, we do a lot of other things
No, I
while we're
understand.
there.
I was just
Just the
talking about the
blower
blowers, yeah.
part. It's just, you have to figure for a good hour.
And I think, if I recall correctly, what you said last time is that almost all of it is just litter.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have a little grass section, but we cut that with a bag.
I was gonna say, it seems like
Yeah.
leaves and grass and other things, not the problem.
No, leaves are a problem. We have trees.
But it sounds like
But it's-
most of it is a human problem.
Yes. Yeah, it is a human problem, you're right. Because if people stop dropping garbage, we'd be in
Yeah,
good shape, you know?
they treat the shopping plaza as if it's a garbage can.
Exactly. Exactly.
Questions, comments from the board?
Stefan and I were there yesterday, and the two things that struck me, well, a couple of things struck me. One is that the electric backpack clearly weighed more than the gas backpack, but I
12
wouldn't want to
pounds.
have either one of them on my back, I must tell you, but be that as it may. I found that the gas blower was significantly noisier than the electric. I also found that the gas blower emitted an odor of gasoline, which I found to be problematic, but other people might not. But I guess if you're doing this early enough in the morning, maybe the noise is not a problem if there's just nobody around. I don't know how far the noise travels.
No more than the road noise from cars and trucks driving by, I can guarantee you that.
I was there one morning picking up milk that had spoiled in my house, so I had to go to Acme to have my daily,
Say it ain't so.
it is, to have my daily fix, I had to go for new milk. And I did see the gentleman cleaning the debris, because that's what it was. I said, there's nothing on the ground except for garbage. It was really terrible.
So you witnessed it?
I did see that.
Live, yeah.
So, and it wasn't a terribly busy parking lot, to your point. That's why I brought that up. I'm not up early shopping generally.
Plus, we don't blow around people or anything like that. You know, it's not like, you know, people getting out of their cars and the blowers are blowing debris and dust all over the people or anything like that. You know, we've been there 35 years, so we know how to deal with people and work around them, you know?
So how many people do you have with the blowers in the morning?
There's two.
Two.
With two blowers.
Two blowers for
Blowers
1
in the morning, yeah.
hour, okay.
So it's 2 man-hours, or is it what total of 1 man-hour?
No, it's two men for approximately 1 hour, so it's 2 man-hours.
Blown garbage.
Curious if you have
No,
had
it's on.
any complaints about the noise from the residents, because we don't have that many residential homes around the shopping center. They're quite a distance away. We've got a ball field behind, and the church property behind Acme. So I don't know how many personal residences that would be affected.
And we know there's not a lot of residential around there. To me, the leaf blower issue is not necessarily about the noise. To me, it's about the emissions and you know, trying to do what we can as a village to, you know, help at all. You know, I think something we have to consider is that, you know, we allowed these exemptions for larger properties. The smaller properties aren't going to be able to be exempted. And so, you know, I think, and, you know, it almost sounds to me as if this board is leaning towards granting this exemption. I'm not sure. I'm trying to get a gauge from what you're saying,
Would
but
it
no one's
be-
actually saying anything.
If so, it'd be just for this one season, or we just, and then,
We can put conditions on it. To me, I would say that, you know, my personal feeling would be that any exemption we grant, I wouldn't want to be longer than a year.
Yeah.
Because I think that technology will change as time goes on. But I also think we need to keep in mind the rest of the residents of this village who are going to have to comply with this law.
Right, correct. I agree. I feel like, you know, Michael, when we were talking, you know, it's just the technology might not be there yet, and all these laws are coming out that are affecting these batteries and the fires that you hear about. And it almost just seems like for the bigger ones, we definitely might want to wait a year, push it a year. Maybe the technology will be better in a year. I don't know, I guess better ones. I mean, Michael, what do you think? Can you come and just say what your opinion is on, I keep asking Michael.
Well,
I like enough of
What
it.
generation?
I would say, though, I think, Michael, if you're talking, we're talking specifically about this application.
We can't just talk about leaf blowers in general?
Well, I think what's before us is this exemption.
Right, but there's one right behind it too.
I think the issue that I'd like to better understand is what generation are we on? Did we already change the generations, as was said? Did we upgrade?
Is this like the iPhone? Are we gonna need
Yeah,
like?
yeah, every
Yeah,
6
this
months.
is like already doesn't work.
It's going to change.
Okay, so in general, as everybody knows, technology keeps changing, so things evolve. So in a way, yes, Trustee Fisher, it's going to be like the iPhone. You know, unfortunately, we held off as long as we can, and we purchased the Generation 2 model, which is the mainstream model that was introduced in August. We actually pre-ordered it, knowing that they were going to be sold in early August. So that's why we didn't buy the Gen 1. Okay, we saw the Gen 1 at trade shows, and we held off a little bit until things became more mainstream, because the manufacturer did tell us that it's not their mainstream model yet, it's not in production, this was a prototype. So when we heard that Gen 2 was being made, that's what we jumped on. It is correct that we did get 45 minutes approximately from, I think, 9 bars to 1 bar on the blower. We took it, we taped it, so no one played with it. It stayed on for 45 minutes in the corner, went down to 1 bar. So we were pretty much almost what the manual says on boost mode, which was 45 minutes to, I think, 59 minutes in the cut sheet. So we were right there. The advertised use is 120 to 140 minutes, but that could be on low for all I know. So once you factor in the cost of the equipment, the battery charger, the battery, you're looking at upwards of $2,000 for the setup that we have. So, but is things going to change? 100% they're going to change. One of the reasons why we're cautious in what we buy, and we had Husqvarna here, we had other manufacturers here, and we waited. And this isn't sales pitch against or for a product, because everybody's going to pick what works for them, or whichever brand works for them. We focused more on mainstream manufacturers that we have used in the past, who are industry leaders in this type of equipment. Not saying anybody else isn't, but we stayed with mainstream. Husqvarna and Steel are the two that we considered for these reasons, because they're global, they're worldwide. But it is ever-changing technology. There are risks with this stuff. Everybody hears about the fires, things of that nature, so there are precautions that have to be taken. Make sure you're careful how you store them, how you charge them, use the right chargers. If they get damaged, you gotta be careful. A lot of the fires that you're hearing are also the knockoff batteries, or you're hearing people now are trying to play with them and expanding, adding more batteries to 12 batteries, adding another 12. So people play with it, which I understand too, but this is not something to play with, unfortunately. This isn't, you know, I want to add a turbo onto a gas engine. It doesn't work that way.
If I could just add, so we know the technology is going to get better, but we don't want to kid ourselves and think that it's going to be as efficient as the gas blowers anytime soon, or they're going to be, you know, less heavy. They're always going to be a little bit heavier for the foreseeable future. They're always going to be not carry the length of time as a gas, because gas will last pretty much all day, and you fill up the tank and you're ready to go again, and you have to wait for it to recharge. So the key issues here is, you know, is a technology at a point where the board is comfortable saying they should be implemented on these types of properties, or is it not there yet? Because the technology and the safety items probably will get better. But the other side of that is you're weighing it against the environmental benefits, and whether it be emissions or noise. Those are the policy debates that you're at. What point in time are we at? But because it's never really going to be equal, you know, not in the foreseeable future.
Right, okay.
I was just going to say, to follow along with Michael's analogy to the iPhone, I have an iPhone 11. My son's an engineer, so I always say, well, should I upgrade it to the 12? No, wait, because it's going to get better. And when the 13 came out, should I do the 13? No, wait. 14 comes out. No, wait, because the 15 is going to be much better. And so it never stops. That's the whole thing. So you don't know. At some point, you should have to plant your flag and say, okay, I'm going to buy something. Because if you wait till the, you know, technology has finally done everything it can do, probably won't be in any of our lifetimes. And so, I mean, that's a problem, which is, I don't buy into the idea of an evolving technology, because as I say, then you never buy anything.
And that is true. Just understand that you have two different operations. We're a local fixed base operation. We have a highway department, we have a shop, we have a place to go to. You know, when you think about your landscapers, your other professionals, they have a truck and a trailer. You know, so they're operating differently than we're operating. And I'm not justifying it, I'm just saying two different approaches to the same piece of equipment. So they have to adapt to things differently than we would have to adapt, than the shopping center would have to adapt. But yeah, there are learning curves here, there are changes, but the board made a policy decision, we took a step, and that's what we're going to do. But it is a change, I will say, it is a change across the board. Even the parks guys who use it every day on the ball fields, on the tennis courts, they carry 2 batteries with them each. So normally, what would be a leaf blower and maybe half a gallon of gas, oil mix, is now two 18-pound batteries. You know, I mean, 2 20-pound batteries. You know, and the weight difference is 12 to 14 pounds between a regular blower and the electric.
I have one more question. Any battery, for instance, my phone, diminishes over time. Will this happen with these batteries?
So,
Meaning the charge amount?
I hate to say this, we're almost, the law is passed.
I understand.
We've
but I'm
passed
just
the
asking
law.
a question. I know, but I asked these questions
This
then,
is,
and I
you know,
asked
right
them.
now, we're asking about an exemption for a specific property, and that's what I was saying before, that I think we have to almost think about this in relation to a specific property. I mean, we can have the conversation about our uses, you know, and yes, landscapers in the village of Rybrook servicing single-family homes are gonna have to make adjustments, and what you said is, they have to adapt. It's an adaptation to what is more and more commonly becoming the practice in Westchester County and beyond. And so I think, you know, as much as I'd love to continue the conversation of leaf blowers and electric
Sure.
leaf blowers in general, I think we have to think about an application that's in front of us.
Okay. Valid point.
Yep.
Sorry.
Thank you, Michael.
Sorry.
answer it or don't answer it.
Okay.
Oh, you can tell me offline, it's okay, it's a question. Had nothing to do with what's in front of us.
So to get a sense of where this board stands, I just, you know, again, I'm not,
Well, I believe in giving an extension.
Me too.
That's it.
and then,
Another year.
Yep, I think it deserves another year of, and I think it deserves an extension. That's it.
then I need someone to make,
I'll make a motion to extend for 1 year.
When you say 1 year, you should probably just say until October 1st.
Okay. October,
of 2024.
Yes.
yeah, and then have to reapply for another extension if needed.
Wait, you mean, because it doesn't start till May 1st of
Yeah.
2024, so you mean May 1st of 2025?
Either one, or you could do, if you do October 1st of
Because the
24,
law's
then
not
they
in
can
effect- The
apply.
law's not in effect.
Yeah, that makes more
after-
sense,
They can
because you
apply
got all
then.
winter
Yeah.
to argue it,
Yeah, yeah, I think until,
October 1st.
right?
1st
Don't
of
make it in the middle of the
2024.
summer, that'd be kind of crazy. Right.
yeah.
October
That's
what?
fair.
So
I think
you're
we
you're
have-
approving the,
Someone made a motion,
a motion was made to approve the request for an exemption, for an extension, sorry, with the condition that, that it end on October 1st, 2024.
No,
Would
I
have
think
to
we're
be
right the first
reapplied.
time when you say it's an exemption
Well,
till
what-
October 1st.
Yeah,
Exemption from
you're
the-
right,
from
it's
the
an
law.
exemption, you're
Yes.
right.
yes. So there's a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
The motion was trustee Morlino, second was,
Take your pick.
okay,
The ladies.
I think trustee Epstein said it first.
okay, thank
It
you.
was louder.
Always louder. Sorry about that, Stephanie.
I always have you down on my list because I hear
I
yours
know,
first.
right here, right here in your ear, exactly.
I always have Stephanie's.
Okay, I think,
October 1st of 2024 is when it ends next year, so then you'd have to reapply for 2025 for an exemption, if you would. because the program, the ban ends on September 30th. So that's why.
Yes, because it's a seasonal gas-powered leaf blower ban, so it only runs from May 1st through September 30th of each year. And then, you know, certainly my hope is that by that point, we're on the iPhone 15.
Talk to my son.
Where you bite the bullets.
Really?
Do it.
I'd love to get a new iPhone if only Andrew
Or
would say
we've
yes, go ahead and
realized,
do it.
or we've realized at that point that they're actually, you know, that everyone is adapting well, and,
When are you getting a new iPad?
oh, never.
Okay.
Because this, yeah, but,
All right, so does that make
this
sense
one's not
for you
making, you know, this not, it's
It's
not
not emitting any
emitting
fumes, yes.
exhaust,
Need to vote, Phil.
so,
Oh, we gotta vote still.
yes. All right, so I think we're ready for the roll call.
Trustee Epstein?
I think I have to say yes, is that what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes is allowing the exemption.
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So it's moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
good
you.
luck.
All right, resolution number 3. Considering a request of an extension exemption of Chapter 158, Section 2.1 of the Village Code regarding a seasonal leaf blower ban for the Portchester School District.
Okay, whereas on April 11th of this year, the Board of Trustees approved a local law enacting a seasonal gas-powered leaf blower ban from May 1st through September 30th, starting May 1st, 2024. And whereas properties with at least 5 acres can apply for a full or portion or partial extension or exemption of the local law, and whereas the application was distributed to the properties that are eligible, and whereas on July 13th of this year, representatives of the Portchester School District submitted an application for an exemption from the requirements of the local law requiring a seasonal ban on gas-powered leaf blowers at the Portchester Middle School and the Portchester High School. Now therefore be it resolved that after consideration of the intent of the local law as well as considerations raised in the application from the Portchester School District, the Board of Trustees hereby either approves, denies, or approves with conditions the request for an exemption of the Village Code, and be it further resolved that the approval of the exemptions includes any conditions that the board may see to put in place.
Thank you, Chris, and we'll hold off on our motions and seconds. Do we have a representative from the Portchester School District?
Good evening. Adam Rubin, I'm the Director of Facilities for the Portchester School District. Thank you for allowing me to show up, and we can have the further conversations about leaf blowers, because it's a very exciting subject. The first thing is we use leaf blowers not just, it's a safety thing. The leaves get in the way of sidewalks. We do not have busing in our district, so all of the students walk to school. So we're using it in terms of wet leaves that can become slippery. We have a lot of stairs leading into the high school, and you're talking about the 2 biggest schools we have. We definitely have over 5 acres of land that we're taking care of, and it's the pine needles that get on the tennis courts that the rec department uses, so we have to clean it up there. So it's an all-purpose kind of thing that we're using it for, even in the wintertime. If it's a dry snow, leaf blower out there, clean the steps, and I know the ban doesn't take place in winter, but just to show you that it's not just one faceted thing, we use it in all year round. And, you know, just from a safety perspective, it's important to us. We do use electric blowers at our smaller schools, elementary schools like Edison. It's not in Rybrook, but we do have electric ones, and we are using them where we can, where it makes sense. Just on the bigger properties, it's going to be time consuming because all of our ground stuff is located at our JFK school. So if we're at the high school and the batteries die, then we have to truck all the way back to JFK, get the batteries, bring them back, or we can plug them into our trucks that are burning diesel and let them idle, and that's worse. So I'm not quite sure, and I understand what you're trying to do, but I'm not sure how to alleviate that problem for us. Most of the backpack blowers that are electric are using alkaline batteries, so they heat up when they're being used. I don't know if Mike found that, like if you have alkaline batteries.
Lithium,
You have
yeah.
lithium, so, and they're gonna be more expensive, and you gotta recycle them properly. It's like a whole big steps. You've heard on and on about leaf blowers before I got here, so if there's questions you wanna ask me, feel free, and see where we go.
Just one point of clarification.
Sure.
You mentioned about leaves. Just want to be clear, while you certainly can get leaves in the summer, Dad, but just realize this ban doesn't take place during the primary leaf season. Just want to make sure that was clear.
But, usually what happens, especially when we don't have access to our roof in high school, because the attic doesn't allow that, and we have a decent gutter system, so when they blow off, we do have that issue as well, but your point is well taken.
So I have a question. Can I ask?
Yes, please.
So what kind of leaf blowers do you have?
We have, I think they're Red Max backpack blowers.
This is the electric one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Which ones we use?
Yeah.
They're the Ego over at our Edison school, and again, and I have an electric one at home, and my custodian will say I get halfway done and then it dies out, so I need to get another battery, and then you have to have additional chargers, and God forbid there's a power outage overnight, then we don't have anything. So it's kind of a situation, but we have the Egos.
Right. And have you ever tried to use them at the other schools, or is it mostly just for those smaller ones?
Just mostly for the smaller ones, because we do have the gas-powered ones, and the size of the middle school and the high school.
Yeah.
You're going from Tamarack Road all the way down to Park, and you're clearing the sidewalk. The tennis courts are 4 courts wide,
Right.
so it's a
And what
little
about
bigger
that elementary school that's across the street from the,
Park Avenue.
yeah,
They have electric. The custodian has an electric one, so on a daily basis, he can go out and use it. But when they cut the grounds, they just go around and blow, just make sure it's all cleaned up with the gas power.
Are they all backpacks you own, or you have push ones too?
We do not have like a billy goat or a wind turbine, no.
Okay, so all backpacks.
Yeah.
Is,
It's easier to control, especially when people come.
Yeah.
Like, we have to do it like early in the morning. Our guys start at 7:30. So if somebody's pulling up into a parking spot, the control of the backpack blower is right there, and you can dial it down. On the push ones, you have to kind of spin it out of the way. It's a little bit more clumsy, I would say.
Yep, yeah, I'm just curious what you
Sure.
had.
Can I ask a question?
I have a quick question. Is all of the maintenance done in-house? You're not contracting out for,
Negative. We have a grounds department, and we have
And-
5.
and is the grounds department is shared among all the schools, or is it?
That's correct.
Okay.
So they go to all the schools, we cut, we do trimmings, everything that we need to do for the grounds.
Gotcha.
Setting up the athletic fields as well. If band, we have to paint the lines for the band, so we go around and we do a lot. So
Gotcha.
and that's the labor loss, I'm sure, like if we have to go back and forth to pick up batteries, it'd be a little bit of a challenge.
Chris, you had
Sure,
a,
just for the board to,
Sure.
and for myself, it seems like you have two very different types of properties in Rybrook between the middle school and the high school. You know, the middle school has a lot, has the parking lot, of course, but also has a lot more green space. The high school, at least the portion in Rybrook, is less green space and more hardscape. So maybe could you just describe what's different maybe at the high school versus the middle school? And how you, what are you using what are you using?
it gets
Yeah.
confusing.
What are you using the leaf blowers for, particularly at the high school?
Right,
Because
so-
I think that's a
Right,
question.
so on the Rybrook side, we do have patches of grass that we have to trim, especially up that hill, going towards what we call the administrative parking lot. And on the other side as well, where you enter into the auditorium. So there are some green spaces, but again, it's a safety thing. It's sidewalks. It's people walk up and down Tamarack and they're walking their dogs. If they fall on our property, guess who's getting in trouble, right? So we got to make sure it's clean and it's free of debris, anything that could be in their way. So it's, even though it's hardscape, similar to like the people before me, they're cleaning the trash, they're cleaning the litter. That's our job. We can't have people fall. It's, that's a bad look for us, and we don't want that to happen. Safety first.
Do you have the same litter problem that they do at Washington Park Plaza?
I would say that we're our own worst enemy, that the kids, as kids do, that, I wouldn't have a job if kids kept things neat, even, nice, orderly, and nothing broke. I'd be like, oh, I'm going to look for something. The kids are going to do what kids do. So, yeah, we do have trash cans along the property, more on the, I would say, the Portchester side, but, we don't divide it up. We look at it as it's one property, and are we going to use, oh, wait, I just crossed this section of sidewalk, I got to now switch to, over to electric. Again, my thing is saving the taxpayers' money, and I don't want to have to stop what I'm doing, go over to JFK, grab more batteries, come back. That's labor time lost, and I don't think that's fair. The taxpayers end up with that burden. So if we can get the extension, I would love for the technology to be there too. But like I said, I have one at home, and I have a Craftsman, and I do just my front lawn and around my garden and stuff. And next thing you know, if I'm not using it on high, all of a sudden it starts to die down, like you said. And so I'm fully aware. I try to be, environmentally friendly, but we're not there yet. I think that's one of the things that somebody said earlier. I think that's true.
Don, iPhone.
Does anybody drive a Tesla,
No,
by the way?
no questions.
Have you replaced the batteries on the Tesla yet?
No.
Wait for that.
Wait, at what year does that happen?
They're just expensive. You're talking about, that's a lot of lithium.
I love my Tesla. I'm never giving that up.
Well, next year when they have the new model, though.
Oh, that's right.
15, right?
I'm gonna wait
Next
for the
mo-
next
next
new
mo-
model.
the next new
Oh,
model.
my son, he'll tell you when to get a new one.
One of the other things that, it also helps us clear the catch basins. And I don't know if you heard, over when we had those big storms, it was recycle day in Portchester. And the wind blew all the cardboard over the catch basins, and Olivia Street was a river. I have a picture. So one of the things that we go around do, and I put it out every time it rains to all my custodians, check all your drains, check all your catch basins, make sure that they're clear, because we're in a situation, right? So that's one of the things too. If you don't have that power to get whatever it is off the catch basins, even though it seems minor, something catches something else, something catches something, and now all of a sudden the water's not going where it needs to go, and now it's a flood problem. I'm trying to avoid that. So that's the other thing to consider.
You have a lot of custodians.
I have 6 head custodians, and the others are inside the building, but yeah. If you ask me, we don't have enough custodians.
I hear you.
That's my answer.
All right, I think I know where, I think, personally, I feel a little bit different about the school districts than I do with other private landowners or private larger landowners. I think, when I think about this, I think, the Portchester schools are, it's a third of Rybrook's population approximately goes to Portchester schools. So we have residents in the Portchester school districts, but there are a lot of other residents that would be affected by any decision we make well outside of Rybrook for this. And so I think of the school districts a little bit differently, I would say. I don't know how we feel about term.
I think we should do a 1-year extension and see how things go. Maybe something that's going to last, maybe next time the technology's not there and it's just not practical, and they may need a 3-year extension. But I think a year, just like we did the other gentleman, is sufficient to go forward and see how,
Wait,
you know.
what did you suggest? Or how long?
I didn't suggest.
No,
Oh, I
I'm,
thought you did.
I didn't suggest.
I
No, I'm just
suggested-
saying, I'm thinking.
I suggested
think
the
of
same
this one-
extension we gave the last gentleman.
Right.
I think about this
For now,
one a
and
little
then,
bit different than I
You know,
do because
just so we get,
Parity.
yeah, and see how things go during the year and see what kind of extensions we get. And this is a learning curve for
Right.
not only the contractors, for us.
There's virtually no downside to just doing it for a year.
Right.
They can
Right.
always come
It's not,
back.
yeah, it's not rocket
We'll
science.
see if anything's changed.
Right.
It may be that nothing
It
changed.
may be
gonna
that
change,
you're
and then we
implementing
can-
more electric, so
Get to hang out with you guys some more, so that's good. That's fine. That's right. And Greg has been outstanding. I just want to mention that. Thanks for all your phone calls and help.
That's it.
So do I have a motion for something?
Yes,
So moved.
a motion
For what?
to extend it for 1 year,
To
October.
allow the exemption
Mhm.
for a period of 1 year.
So October 1st, 24.
That's right. Thank you.
What, right?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, okay.
David seconded.
I'll second it, so this way you don't have to debate between.
Yeah, I'd be willing to
The
go
lady.
longer for this one.
You can go forever.
Personally, I was just thinking I'd be willing to go longer for this one.
Wow. He's going
You're a
longer.
pushover?
What do you propose, Mayor?
2 year.
Oh, wow.
He's raising the stakes.
He's raising the stakes. Give me-
You currently have a motion, so you'd have to withdraw it if you want to consider a 2-year or amend
Or
it.
we could stick with, well, let's stick with 1 year then.
Yeah.
Just see- Yeah,
I think there's no downside to one.
Right.
Okay.
right.
That's fair, right?
Oh, yeah.
so we have a motion and a second, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
to end on the exemption.
October 1st of 24.
Correct.
Okay. All right, I think we're ready for the roll?
Ready.
Okay.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Merlino?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you for explaining everything.
All right, resolution number 4. Considering granting an extension of PUD development and PUD site plan approval to 900 King Street LLC.
Whereas on January 26, 2021, the Board of Trustees approved a local law amending the village code, and whereas the local law revised the zoning code pursuant to PUD sites, created a new section of the village code, to allow or redevelop the 900 King Street property for age-restricted and senior housing purposes, and whereas on September 14th, 2021, the Board of Trustees approved the PUD concept plan proposed by 900 King Street, and whereas the village code approval is, and the site plan approval is valid for a period of 18 months with extensions authorized to be granted for periods not to exceed 6 months, and whereas the original PUD approved by the Board of Trustees expired on March 15th, 2023, and then on January 24th, the Board of Trustees approved an extension for 6 months expiring September 15th, 2023, and whereas on August 3rd, 2023, the village received a letter from Veneziano and Associates on behalf of 900 King Street Associates requesting an additional extension of a period of 6 months. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the PUD site plan extension, site approval extension for a period of 6 months.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved?
Second.
All right, I know we have a representative. Anything you want to say?
How about leaf blowers? Anything?
Yeah, anything about leaf blowers?
Are you wanna?
Applies to us, right?
Don't apply for exemption
It's
now.
in the village of Rybrook, so the legislation applies. If the site is over 5 acres in size.
It's over, so I like my exemption lodge now. That's all. But I spoke to Chris, I just wanted to come by, so I'm going to the planning board as well. There seems to be some activity on our end. Chris said he's speaking to my client, so about resolving certain issues, so I'm hopeful for that. But I'm also at the planning board somewhere in September, so I just wanted to stop in, because last time you granted it, and we're moving along in time now, it's been quite a while, so.
Planning board meets the second Thursday in September.
Yeah, it sets on my calendar, I have a date, I'm on the agenda. But I just want to come by in case you had any questions, and see what you're thinking about all this. Otherwise, you could just approve it and I'll go home.
On a personal note, I'm glad to see that there's still interest in the project, and I know that, I still feel the same way I did, that we hope to see this built in Rybrook.
We worked too hard. You worked really hard, and we worked really hard. Everyone really worked on this. So there's interest in the use, there's interest, Peter has certain things going on, so, and everything's shifting in the real estate world. It's a busy world, so.
So are the same uses moving forward?
Yeah. But there's people interested in the use of, he's trying to figure out his partners and the finances. He's all about the finances and working it out. And we were at the ARB, it was all during the Zoom time, the virus situation. So we were there probably 5 times and I never went. It was all off my phone talking to them. But that was moving along nicely. I don't think that'll take that much longer once he picks it up. And there was some value engineering regarding the buildings that he started to think about to reduce them and reduce the cost. And then it just was put on hold to resolve this issue, which he's kept as the frontal issue until this is resolved. He's going to just stand back. So that's sort of his position with us, and we don't speak often with us and with you, I guess. So we'll work it out.
All right. I mean, we went through the whole EIS process. This has unfortunately been put on hold, and, you know, personally, I'm fine extending this in the hopes that this will eventually get built. Any questions, comments?
No,
There was a letter sent to us.
I was read that.
1 second, let me bring it up.
Oh, from Rosemary Schlank.
Yes. So, is that something
She
that we
submitted a
need to
letter today.
consider? About it?
I've read it, it doesn't change my opinion.
Yeah, I read it too.
Well, I just want to
It's on the website.
bring you to page 2,
on the
number
agenda.
3. I just want to know if that is applicable here. Like, what would happen if things change? What control will we have? Is this a chance to move it, or is this something that we just let go until everything is approved?
Hold on. The issues of, that's a request that the village consider the senior and disabled citizens tax relief, which would be by code. The town and the county have done that, and the point in number 3 in the letter is that the senior and disabled veterans relief, the additional relief be provided under the code. So what that does is reduce the property taxes for eligible seniors and eligible individuals with disabilities, and that amount is made up by other people in the homestead tax area. So other homestead properties would make the difference up. So that's really a separate policy question.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be discussed now. Got it. All right.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
Do we have a motion? I think we do, yeah.
Trustee Epstein?
So this is giving them 1 more year?
6 months.
6 months. Okay, I hope it gets done within the next 6 months. Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Having spent an awful lot of time both at this board and the planning board listening to all of this, yes.
Too much.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
and Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Resolution number 5, considering requesting that the planning board review and provide recommendations regarding updates, if any, to the comprehensive plan.
Just give me 1 second, please. Whereas in May 2012, the Village of Rybrook, in coordination with the County Planning Department, prepared a base studies report that looked at existing conditions in the Village of Rybrook in anticipation of the preparation of Rybrook's first comprehensive plan. And whereas in June 2014, the Board of Trustees approved Rybrook's first comprehensive plan, which provides policy and administrative direction for the village and many recommendations for change. And whereas it has been over 9 years since the 2014 comprehensive plan was adopted, and Rybrook has had many changes occur in that time period. And whereas the planning board has expressed an interest in reviewing the 2014 comprehensive plan and make any recommendations to the village board for modifying, further studying, and updating the various sections of that document. And whereas upon receipt of the planning board's recommendation to the board of trustees, upon receipt of the planning board's recommendations, the village board of trustees will determine whether to initiate procedures to update the comprehensive plan pursuant to the relevant provisions of New York State Village Law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees requests the Planning Board undertake a review of the 2014 Comprehensive Plan and make any recommendations to the Village Board to modify, further study, or update the various sections of that document. And be it further resolved that representatives of Keenan Bean and Hardesty and Hanover assist the Planning Board members in meeting the goals of this task.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
Second.
I remember when the comprehensive plan came out, I was not on the board while a lot of the work was going on with the comprehensive plan. But I do remember when the comprehensive plan came out, and there have been changes in Rybrook, and also there have been things adopted from the comprehensive plan, and others that have not. So I think it is important to review from time to time to see, you know, how we can evolve as a village for the betterment of all residents.
No, when this came up at the planning board, they discussed things like the fact that both hotels have closed. We've had to deal with climate change and the effects of climate change in the village. And I forget some of the other things that they mentioned, but it was like, okay, maybe it's time to take a look to see whether the planning board needs to be tweaked here and there, or perhaps even more than tweaked, just so that in 2023 and going forward, it's still relevant.
Right. And I would recommend that any, village board member who has not read the comprehensive plan or has not in a while, at least peruse it, take a look through it.
Right, I tried to download it on here, it wasn't attached.
It was linked.
The adopted,
I'm looking
Yeah.
at it now.
yeah.
No, I tried to do it and.
There's two different sections. One is one's an Adobe, a PDF, which is a very large document.
Right.
I would suggest you go to the link. The
Got it.
link,
Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
when you
link
open up
is,
the
yeah.
link, you'll be able to open it up section by,
Reminds me when I plant some trees.
if you go to the link,
Fine.
you'll be able to open up section by section, which is
Gotcha,
much
thank you.
smaller
I
pieces
just
of it.
tried to do that, but I have one other question. My only thing is, it is 10 years ago, would it be prudent to have some of the people that were on the committee also thinking about it with them?
I think that, if the planning board, I think some of the planning board members
Are
possibly
they all
were.
the same?
No, they're not all the same, but I think they could ask for others to be involved, but it's also, if you look at the resolution, it also asks for Keenan Bean and,
Hardesty and Hanover.
thank you, to be involved as well.
And just realize, they're not going to be doing an update. They're going to be
Right.
providing recommendations.
Recommendations.
In some cases, maybe it will require other planning consultant study and so forth. So they're not going to undertake that without coming back to the board
Got it.
with those
I just think
recommendations.
knowing the history of it would be.
Well, I would also think that depending upon their recommendations, we may as a board then want to integrate some of the previous comprehensive plan members.
Right.
And there is the village law has a very, the village law also has a very defined process for that. So
Right.
there's a seeker you have to undertake, and there is a defined process under village law in order to do a complete update.
Okay, right, which we're not looking to do.
Not yet.
Yeah, we're not looking to do a complete update yet.
Perfect.
But we're looking to see, it may be that the planning board recommends a complete
Yeah.
update.
Might be.
We don't know, but certainly it's important to take a look and see how conditions have changed.
And as liaison to the planning board, I will try to sit in on as many of their discussions as possible.
Any other questions, comments?
No?
Oh, and by the way, if anybody else would like to sit in on planning board meetings and discussions,
They're public meetings.
come on down.
Yeah, they're public meetings.
Yeah, yeah,
Without posting, we're allowed, huh?
as long as there's not three of us.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you, and we thank the planning board for taking this up and for their efforts in the future. Resolution number 6, considering a village contribution to the Columbus Day Celebration Committee for the annual parade.
Whereas the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees supports the annual Columbus Day Parade sponsored by the Columbus Day Celebration Committee, now therefore be resolved that the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees hereby approves that $800 be provided to the Columbus Day Celebration Committee for its annual Columbus Day Parade on Sunday, October 8th, 2023, with a rain date of October 15th.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion second, please?
So, second.
This is a annual contribution that we make, and we thank them for putting on the parade. And certainly if I'm around, I will try to be present. I have marched in some of the parades before with Alexander, and it's a lot of fun.
Good.
With Elliot as well, I think.
How many years ago was that?
Not too long ago. Prior to being mayor, though, I can tell you that.
Trustee Epstein?
Sure.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. And I'm going to turn over the floor to Deputy Mayor Heiser for the next resolution.
Speaking of annual events,
that I will need to recuse myself for.
This is number 6.7, considering the use of village streets on Valley Terrace for a block party on September 9th, 2023.
Whereas the Village of Rybrook has received an email dated August 10th, 2023 from Judy Klein of 68 Valley Terrace requesting the use of village streets for a block party to be held on Saturday, September 9th, with a rain date of September 10th from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And whereas the Village Board is supportive of this annual block party event, now therefore be resolved that the use of Valley Terrace on Saturday, September 9th, 2023, with a rain date of September 10th, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. for the Valley Terrace Block Party event is hereby approved with the terms to be established by the Rybrook Police Department.
Can I get a motion in a second, please?
Second. Wait, I like the wording here. It says the Rybrook Board of Trustees must approve the use of village streets. But that's typically been the case. Must.
Right, well, we can't do it without the approval.
I mean, can we be invited? We're not invited.
Citizen
We
Klein,
must
would you
have
mind
a
going
rule.
to the microphone?
Now's your chance to Well, we appreciate this consideration. This actually started many years ago. I think this started back in around 2000 or even beforehand. And it was done by neighbors down at the other end of the block. And when their kids aged out of the system, there wasn't a block party one year, and we said, "What happened?" And they said, "Well, our kids aren't around anymore, so we don't want to do it." We said, "We'll do it." So we started doing it actually before I was on the board. So we've been doing it for many years. And
Citizen Klein, I have a question.
yes,
After the block party, do you clean up with a gas leaf blower or an electric leaf blower?
we pick it up by hand. I said, "Those little
why-
grabbers." We use neither.
That's really old fashioned.
And
Old
yes.
school.
Yeah.
Do we give civics lessons to the kids to pick up their own trash?
We do. Well, we invite the 3 blocks, that are
What
around
about
us.
us?
What about the rest of the village of Rybrook?
Or what about your village board?
Yes.
Where's my
Well, we would
invitation?
love an
I'm not-
elected official to come
I'm not in
by,
favor.
And
voting
we
against
invite
it.
elected officials as well. Actually, County Executive Latimer has come by multiple times to the block party to say hello.
Wow, very nice.
I'm putting it in my calendar. I'm going to crash it.
Well, as an elected official, we would invite you.
Bring a grabber for the litter.
I'll pick up some litter, exactly.
Any other questions or comments of Citizen Klein? Hearing nothing, Greg, you want to do the roll?
Trustee Epstein?
Absolutely.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes, I can't wait.
Trustee Morlino?
No, just kidding. Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Heiser?
All things considered, I'll give him a yes.
Thank you.
All right. Enjoy.
All good fun.
All right, let's see.
That's done.
All right, resolution number 8, considering modification to the fiscal year 23-24 general fund adopted budget.
Okay, now therefore be resolved that the fiscal year 23-24 general fund adopted budget is hereby modified as follows. And this is increasing the appropriations for the contract for Portchester for fire service in the amount of $14,375 and decrease appropriations from the village on the same amount. So basically, from the appropriations here are that should be contingency, from the contingency fund.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a
Sorry.
motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
All right. So we have this is because of the new contract in.
So at the time of the budget adoption, we didn't have the new
We
contract.
didn't have the new
So
contract,
from a
right.
budgeting perspective, we left last year's number, and we did have a number that we put
Right.
in contingency.
That makes sense. And so for the following, this is a one-time deal because for the next year, the next time we go back to
We'll
budget,
have a
we'll
fixed
have a
amount.
fixed amount.
Correct.
This-
But if you
this-
remember, at the
right.
time of the budget adoption,
Right,
we didn't have it
know
final.
because we hadn't entered into negotiations.
Correct.
Okay.
So the decrease in the appropriations is from the contingency account.
Okay, great. All right, thank you, Chris. Any other questions, comments from the board?
No.
Okay.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 9, considering approval of the minutes for the meetings held on April 11th, 25th, May 9th, and 25th, 2023.
Now therefore be resolved that the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees approves the minutes for April 25th, May 9th, and May 25th.
April 11th.
April 11th,
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, that's not on that was on the title, but not on the.
Yes,
Well, this has April 25th twice.
yes.
Right, April
Doubly
25th.
approved.
Double-
Really good meeting. But in our excerpt here, it has
does
April
have it.
11th twice.
Oh, look at that. Oh, no.
No, April 11th,
I'm
April
sorry, May
25th.
9th twice, May 9th.
Oh, you're right,
yeah.
it does.
Yes, so apparently some of these meetings are better than others.
I guess. Which one wasn't I at?
All meetings are not created equally.
All right. Do we have a motion second?
So moved.
Second.
Second, yes.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Then we have 3 add-on resolutions that are related. Resolution number 10, considering, oh, wait, are we doing transfer? All right. Considering transfer of funds and closing of capital projects.
Yes, okay.
All right, so they're not all. All right.
No, we had, this is another, I'll explain it, I'll read it, and then I'm going to explain it afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Because there's a lot here. Now therefore resolved that the following transfer between capital projects be approved for fiscal year 2023-24. The first one is just money left over that we had for a staff vehicle that we purchased, the one that was in the budget, and this was just money left over. So we'd like to do that additional scanning of documents for our police
Right.
department, which we know was short. AJP covered walkway repairs. This is closing that account because we have 2 different capital projects. So that $35,000 is going to the walkway and boiler, which you're going to be considering as a bid. So that's closing the old project and merging everything into one project. AJP landscaping. This is a recommendation that we're recommending that the AJP landscaping, the fencing replacement on King Street, which we know that money is short, and the drainage improvements for Lincoln Law Ridge to use to take $20,000 from that for the AJP walkway and boiler project, which are subject to a bid approval tonight. So you're going to be considering the bid. So just to be clear, we're asking you to deauthorize the AJP landscaping, which we can't do until the retaining wall is done anyhow, which is, so in other words, that we'll rebudget this in a future year.
Okay.
The fencing on King Street, the $30,000 is so short of the fencing. Fencing is just crazy pricing right now, and you probably need 3 times that. So right now, we'll just put that off for the time being. And the drainage improvements, Michael was able to do some drainage improvements on Lincoln last year, and that, so the $101,000 that we had in that project, we know that it'll cost $20,000 less because he was able to put it in last year's budget, get it done. So that's why we're recommending those 3 projects be deauthorized and put into the AJP walkway and boiler, because those are over budget based on the bids we just received. And those are very important projects, and they do have grant funding attached, which we want to make use of. So, and be it further resolved that the following capital projects are restated as follows. And this is basically, again, the increasing the online permitting and software by $1,800. That's from the staff vehicle balance and the AGP walkway and boiler, just to move that into the one project. So from 2 projects into 1 project. And be it further resolved, the following capital project remaining balance be returned to the general fund, and the capital project be closed. That's the balance in the staff vehicle, which we're just going to, obviously goes back to the general fund, the whole $62.60. And be it further resolved that the following budget modifications of the capital fund and general fund are hereby approved. And that's basically just moving that $62.60 into the general obligation.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
That's a lot of words, but what
Yeah.
you're doing is you're deauthorizing 3 capital projects, closing several projects, and in one case transferring a balance to another project.
All right, and thank you for the explanation. I know these were added on, fairly late.
Yeah.
It's good to have the explanation there.
The ones that were added, just to be clear, were the ones that we just opened up the bid yesterday.
Right.
And the reason we're trying to move on it is because we'd like to try to move on the AJP work as quickly as possible.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. Any
With
questions?
one meeting in August, we didn't want to wait till September to start.
Right,
Yeah.
right, because it's a few weeks until our next meeting.
Exactly.
That's true. Any questions or comments from the board?
Chris, did I understand you say that the fencing, you just can't get fencing?
No, the fencing prices are just out much, much more. We've been trying to get pricing on fencing, and remember, this is heavy-duty fencing because the wind blows that, will move that pretty much around. So the fencing is really deteriorating, but we're talking the amounts we got. Michael, what were we looking at? Upwards of 75 to 100. So we were thinking maybe with 30,000 we might just do a piece of it, but it's not really the right way to do it.
Yeah, hopefully things change in the coming year.
And this is a high fencing. What is that, 10 feet? I think it's a 10-foot high fence, and it's a lot of wind. It's the one in our King Street turf fields.
Right.
And that's the one that is the fence, the
Across
wood
the
fence,
properties?
the wood fence across the back of the residential
The
properties.
barricade fence.
Yeah, it is in bad shape.
It is. And what happens is, some of the players will
Kick balls against it.
push it, they kick balls against it, and some will push it if the ball goes over to open up the fence too, which is another issue.
Right.
So we're trying to look at other types of
Type
alternatives.
of material, yeah. Right.
Huh?
Yeah, other types of material,
To
correct.
break it through, yeah, so some get broken, the fence panels, because they want to get the ball without walking around and things like that.
Yeah, no, I can understand.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully we can find resolution on that one at some point.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Nope.
Did we have a motion and second? Oh, can we have a motion and second, please?
Second.
All right.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 11, considering awarding contract number 2308, Anthony J. Pasilipos Senior Center boiler replacement.
Whereas the Village of Rybrook solicited bids for contract 23-08, senior center boiler replacement, and whereas the bid was advertised in the Westmore News as the official newspaper on Friday, July 28th, and was also made available on the BidNet Direct bid system, and whereas on 10 a.m. on Monday, August 14th, all bids were opened and summarized below. There was 4 bids that we received. The low was Monkey Heating at $76,200, and the high was S&L Plumbing and Heating Corp. at $187,000. And whereas the Superintendent of Public Works recommends that Monkey Heating of 32 Main Street, Dobbs Ferry, New York, be awarded contract 23-08 as the lowest responsible bidder. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees have determined that the lowest responsible bidder meeting the requirements of the contract is Mackey Heating of 32 Dobbs Main Street, Dobbs Ferry, New York, for the total bid amount of $76,200. Be it further resolved, the mayor and administrator are authorized to execute and deliver all documents necessary or appropriate to accomplish the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you. Can I please have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I think we got a pretty good explanation of, of where we're getting the funds from, at least, or the additional funds from. Certainly, this is something very important that needs to happen to keep our AJP Center in.
Yes, and for this project and for the boiler and the walkway improvements, we have received $50,000 in community development block grant funds to offset the cost.
So we appreciate that, certainly, and it's certainly for a lot of our local projects, it's very important to receive our grant funding, so we appreciate everyone involved in getting us that CDBG funds. Questions or comments?
No.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 12, considering awarding contract number 2311, AJP Senior Center walkway repairs.
Whereas the Village of Rybrook has solicited bids for contract 23-11, AJP Senior Center walkway repairs, and whereas the bid for contract 2311 was advertised in the Westmore News as the official newspaper on Friday, July 28th, and was also made available on the BidNet Direct bid system, and whereas at 10:30 on Monday, August 14th, all bids were open and summarized below. We received a total of 3 bids, the lowest being Vinco Builders at the amount of $119,000. Kemp Group Corp. was $174,945.77, and Empire Core Group was $326,260.91. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees have determined the lowest responsible bidder meeting the requirements is Vinco Builders of 5 Vesey Lane, Mayapack, New York, for the total bid amount of $119,000 pending verification of references and background check. And be it further resolved that the mayor and administrator are authorized to execute and deliver all documents necessary or appropriate to accomplish the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved. Second.
All right, again, fairly straightforward, and
And this isn't even a whole replacement of the walkway. It's just,
Wow.
I know,
amazing.
it's the top, it's the electric, for the lighting, this is a very bare bones walkway improvement that was designed, it was designed by John Scarlatta.
Scarlatta,
So
right.
he did that for a very nominal cost, and yeah, but if you go down there, you'll see why it needs to be replaced. Just look up.
absolutely.
As always, I'm stunned by the
Yeah.
difference.
Oh, so were we.
on the-
So were we. I gotta tell you,
I feel as like maybe we've submitted different proposals to
it's
these people.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how many like the one that they didn't even come down and look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Just throw out a number.
Just throw out a number and see if they get it.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Nope. That is crazy.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Administrators report.
Okay, just have a couple of items. The National Resource Conservation Service Recovery Program that we're working on, as the board knows, we've talked about, we have Brook Lane, we have Wyman Street North, and Rock Ridge, not the entire streets, but just the eligible sections. And the deadline, it was an artificial deadline, but was last Friday. And we received a total of, well, I'd say 20 applications. 2 are being just, they need to submit some supplemental information. But received a total of 20 applications. So we have the original 11 on Brook Lane. We have 1 on Rock Ridge and 8 properties on Wyman and Wyman Street North total. So that's good signs. So they are participating, and it is right in the area that, that is the flood-prone area on those particular streets. So, we're pleased that approval is in place, or the people have applied for it, got information. We had an information session with the residents down at AJP, and people were interested in it, which is good. Now we're just finalizing the agreements with council, and then the next step is to go out and hire an appraiser, which we'll do through an RFP process. And the RFP and the appraisal process is defined by the specs of the federal government.
How many homeowners again are? So
I'll say
what are we
20
down to?
total.
We're at 20 right now?
Yeah, and that should be it. I think we had 18, we have 18 completed, and there's 2 others that have to give some supplemental information. So I'd say 20.
And you think out of those 20, who's going to go through?
We'll know by the end of the year how many actually are okay with the numbers. that
So
come
we're
in
down
from
to
the
20
appraisals.
people are
But I get questions about it all the time. People are very interested.
Mm.
They're anxious to see the numbers that come out from the appraisal
that's
process.
what it's going to be, right? It's
Yep.
all going to boil down
That's
to
going to
that.
be the telling
Mhm.
decision-making time. Just for the residents, Rybrook residents are part of the town of Rye and are therefore eligible for the free beach access every Tuesday in August. That was originally in July, and the town of Rye extended that to throughout the month of August. For those streets that had paving done, they're now started the curbing, and about 20. Michael reports that there's about 20% of the curbing is done, and they'll be continuing to do that until the curbing is completed on the streets that were done by the village. We had very successful, I thought, season of music in the park, thanks to Trustee Epstein, and also I think Ice Cream Fridays, everything, and the movies, everything was very well attended. It was a lot of fun. Kind of a little bit of a catch a break in August when people are doing a lot of traveling, and then we'll be picking up again in September with a lot more fun activities for the residents at the end of the year. And lastly, I just want to thank Gabriel Murad in the back room. You see him next to Michael. He's been with us for how many weeks total? 5 or 6 weeks. He's a Cornell second-year student going into his second year in Cornell engineering. He's been working both the administration and the engineering office. So they've been helping us out, and including the discussion item that's on later today, but also, has spent time helping us in other areas, whether it's been looking at our website or doing the research on the short-term rentals, looking at some of the paving issues with Michael and other projects. So it's been a real pleasure to have you, and thank you so much for all the help that you've given us for the Village of Rye Brook. And he leaves for school, go back to Cornell tomorrow, right? Yeah, tomorrow in the morning. So he's working right up until.
Right up.
Hopefully you packed. And that's all I have for tonight.
All right, thank you, Chris, and thank you to everyone who was involved in the Ice Cream Fridays, the music in the park. Certainly, it was a very successful July, and thank you, Trustee Epstein, for all your work that you put into that.
Pleasure.
It was really awesome. I attended as many as I possibly could, and was very pleased to see the turnout. So we have one discussion item on our agenda tonight, and that is a proposed local law on short-term rentals. So maybe we can be provided with a little background.
Sure.
And
I
the most interesting thing that I found, as I was reading through this, is that it's actually happening, but not allowed in Rye Brook currently. So
Even in Rye Brook, it does have. People don't think it happens in your community, and it happens pretty much everywhere, though. So let's just, first of all, and I said thank you to Gabe. I just want to also thank Greg Rivera and Michael Nowak, who really worked mostly with Gabe to kind of coordinate his schedules and kind of make sure that, giving them guidance, showing them around a little bit about Rye Brook, and, helping with all the tasks and projects that he's been involved in. One of the projects, and probably the longest period project that he's been involved in, is similar to a prior intern that we had in Rye Brook, is, when we looked at the leaf blowers. So short-term rental legislation is something that, NICOM and ICMA and other places are saying, many municipalities, we've had reports that our Westchester municipal officials, somebody from Keenan Bean, Dick Ward Willis, came and gave a presentation there a couple of years ago. So they're suggesting that if, you may want to consider legislating short-term rentals. And so some of the things we asked, it's been on my board for a long time, because it's one of those things that just, we need to get to that point where that's the priority, and we were able to do that with Gabriel's help. So one of the things we did is we kind of looked around and see what kind of legislation is out there in the county or elsewhere. What are things the board might want to consider legislating, if you want to at all? So he provided a summary memo for us of the research that is going, of what other things are happening, some of the trends that they're finding in other municipalities, some of the things the board might want to consider. So, there's a summary memo that's in here in the board's backup packet. Interesting, in Westchester County, it's really Irvington that has the legislative. Yeah, that's it in Westchester County. Yeah, come on up, Gabriel. So in Irvington, they have legislation, a lot more in New Jersey or a little bit upstate, Cold Spring, Newburgh, which are more tourist areas, I guess, and particularly Cold Spring. But there are things types of trends. I don't know if you have your memo there, but I can kind of summarize it if not.
Yeah.
Do you want to go through a little bit?
Oh, no, I don't have it here right now.
You want to go through?
Okay.
Sure. We'll put you on the spot.
Okay, well, I guess I'll just go from top to bottom. So a lot of the municipalities will have like their own forms of like registration, whether they call it a permit or just like a registered owner of an STR. That's kind of a given, honestly, for anyone who wants to, any type of municipality that wants to have it and operate it. You kind of need that. All of the municipalities almost all of them will have defined as an STR as any unit that's rented out for less than 30 days. That's kind of just a trend that I think, and it's just like a solid number, I think, like about a month, where you define someone who lives there permanently versus someone who just is there for vacation or whatever. Some of the municipalities explicitly mention that the owner must either live in the same building as the STR units they rent out, so the primary residence, or that the owner only must be available to respond to complaints, or both. And then there are some municipalities that explicitly mention that parking must be available for on-site for clients. Not everywhere, which is something that Chris and I found that was pretty interesting. We thought that that would be something that almost every municipality would have, but it's not something that is explicitly stated in most of the municipalities. The renewal time for the permits was either annually or 2 years for most of the municipalities. I think that the trend was leaning more towards annually, but it's also something to consider if it's a hassle that if you guys want to have it for 2 years instead of just one. Some municipalities will impose occupancy taxes, so some of the ones in New Jersey and in Newburgh, and then also all of Ulster County has its own tax that everywhere in that county needs to abide by. And some of them will also impose registration and renewal fees for STRs, so renewal fees for their permits or their registrations. Some of the municipalities will give grace periods as well for registration, so from the effective date of when their articles were passed, they'll give, let's say, like 60 days for all of the current renters to actually file their permit applications and send them in to their municipalities. Some of the municipalities also require records for information of the guests, of payments, and the time that they spent in each of the STR units. And some of the municipalities also accept that advertising STRs on websites like Airbnb, Vrbo, and HomeAway are evidence enough that a unit is actually an STR as defined in their code of law. And then many municipalities also have fines which increase in amount after each respective offense. So a lot of them will have, after like a first offense, they'll give you a fine of around $200 or so, and then it'll increase with each offense. And then the last point that I wanted to highlight here was that Newburgh and Kingston lumped in STR units with their definitions of hotels and motels. So that made it so that they could actually charge an occupancy tax for renting out STR units as if they were like a hotel, like a standard hotel. I think that Rybrook, it would be worthwhile to consider maybe doing the same thing, because it allowed for the village to impose its own 3% occupancy tax, which I found in your code online. And I also think that this would probably be the easiest and quickest way to implement a sort of law, since there's already a pretty extensive code on hotels and motels in Rybrook. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I have.
Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you. And I just add a few things like to consider. So, one is we do have hotel tax legislation, rooms for rent, that are in our code. So this is something that Keen and Bean can look and see whether this could be extended to the places like Airbnbs and Verbos and what's the other one? HomeAway?
But I'm pretty sure HomeAway and Verbo are the same thing at this point.
Yeah.
It's owned by Verbo now.
Huh?
It's owned by Verbo now.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
And some of the other things to consider is, it is something you could consider. We don't allow accessory apartments in Rybrook. That's not allowed.
Yeah.
Some places do allow that, but Rybrook does not. So during the comprehensive plan process, that was something that was discussed as a potential way for like seniors or people that for them to stay in the community if they're able to get additional rent in some way. So this might be, other than like a permanent type rental, this would be like a short-term rental. So that's something you might want to consider if that's the type of policy decision you want to make on that. Another way to think about this is we don't allow boarding houses. So if right now you can rent out your house, but they have to live in what they call, the code says, a familial way. So you can have, like you could rent your entire house out to another group of people, like say college kids. They could come in and they could rent a house,
Right.
as long as they don't have locks on the doors and separate cooking in their rooms. It's got to be, they've got to live like a family, in a common way.
Just a quick question on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Does the code specify length of time?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Certainly accessory apartments would be an unlimited time. So
Right.
this would be a way to limit it, saying, well, you can get income, but it's got to be short-term rentals.
Right.
Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. That's something
Right.
to think about.
Yeah, because I remember in the comprehensive plan, when it came up about accessory apartments, I thought that was more longer term.
It is. That's a
think-
long-term way to
Right.
get continuous rental income.
Right.
But that was something that at the time, it was decided not to extend it accessory apartments. People say, well, Rybrook's not necessarily a big tourist
Right.
location, but you think about why people go to Airbnb. Sometimes it's maybe they're not comfortable staying in the city or visiting another location, or you're in for the week for college. Your college student is graduating from Purchase or Manhattanville. I just think about I just went to an Airbnb this past weekend because I was going to an event, and I stayed with 5 other people 9 miles away from where I was going because there was not a lot of Airbnbs. So, you think about it, you go there because it's convenient to go to somewhere else. And if you look, we actually have a few of them right now that are listed in Rybrook on both Vrbo and Airbnb. There are some locations that are actually listed in Rybrook, but really technically not allowed by code because we don't allow boarding houses. So things like that, if you think this is something you want to regulate now or in the future, we wanted to provide the research for you guys to consider whether or not you want to do it and have a discussion about it. So thank you, Gabriel. I appreciate all the hard work.
Oh, I wanted to add one thing. So obviously it was tough at the beginning to find a lot of municipalities, especially in Westchester, using that as an example. To have municipalities actually allowed them or actually had something on them. When I looked at Jersey, a lot of them were banned, especially the municipalities that are all along the border with New York City, or across the water from New York City. So it was interesting, especially when I spoke over the phone with the borough clerk from Fort Lee, where he explained to me sort of why they had the ban, and it was mainly just because they were so close to the city, so they had a lot of people coming in and renting homes and then making noise and disturbing peace in their communities. So I think here we're far enough from the city to where that won't be a problem for you guys, and I think that it's interesting to see sort of the issues that other municipalities have, and understanding that their issues aren't really the same things we have. So I think it's definitely worthwhile to look into this a little more.
Yeah, and if right now it's technically they're not allowed, so if you thought that was a good thing to allow, then you certainly would want to register, so at least you know where they are. So that's the debate, whether or not, because right now they don't identify the exact site. You could usually figure out the homes though, but from the images, but that's something that is a consideration for the board.
This is probably not politically correct, but has there been any research as to the impact on housing values on adjacent properties to STRs?
I don't know the answer to that, but we could find out if maybe NICOM or IC may have done that.
Right, it's very different in New York City because that is certainly an issue because the residents are very upset that they have people coming and going constantly. Obviously, we probably don't have people coming and going constantly. This is not exactly a destination.
Right.
On the other hand, what constitutes a short-term rental, that is also another factor. I would imagine, for instance, we have people where they sublease space. I know that when I renovated my house, I rented a place in the Arborist for 3 months. Is that what consideration is? What is that?
Right.
So I guess you'd have to think about
You'd have to
policy
regulate
from
that.
point of view.
And if you look at the other places, they're definitely
30
different
days,
lengths of time. Some are 30, some are less than 180, it's all, so you got to decide what's right for Rybrook if you proceed that way.
Exactly, but I guess my issue and where Airbnb and the rest of those companies are clamping down is when it's a big enough house and they have parties for one night.
Right.
Okay, so that is certainly something that we want to be mindful of.
Well, I was just thinking of my situation. I live on a cul-de-sac off of a cul-de-sac. I know the people on my block. I don't know how I would feel if somebody were engaged in short-term rentals, and once a month I was seeing new people who claimed, oh, no, I live at number 4. And I'm going, you do? Oh, yeah, I just moved in yesterday. I'll be here for 2 weeks.
And that's the
It
question.
does change the character of
It
the
does.
neighborhood.
It can. It absolutely
Yeah.
can. And the other side of that is it happening and we don't know about it? So that's the other debate. Is it better to know about it and regulate it, or is it better to say, if we ban it when we find them, we can shut it down? So those are the types of thought processes you have.
As I said, I think it's not politically correct to be against STRs, but I would like to know what the impact is.
Fair question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of find them. All you have to do is search.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. I actually don't see any in Rybrook.
There
on
was some,
Airbnb.
2 weeks ago there was.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
so
found
I
one
thought-
tonight.
I found
that one
4.
tonight.
I put it
Four?
for this weekend.
Oh, for this weekend, I did general, and I did, flexible for, August and September.
That's a good
Only.
idea.
Yeah, you expanded
and
it
I
out
did-
a bit.
And I did find 4, which
It's
isn't a
interesting,
very
right?
high number.
No?
I mean, I personally am like,
I mean, I
You don't have to decide tonight either, but
Right.
we saw it's
it's
just something
something
to
to
think about.
consider, yeah. I mean, I would say the average homeowner in Rybrook
it's not
is
doing that.
is not going to be doing that because for the most part they're living there.
Yep.
And or it's someone who owns who's doing the longer term rental as opposed because then it's guaranteed they know they have that income. As opposed to
Or somebody who knew somebody who needed a short-term
Right.
to renovate.
right.
Yeah, sometimes.
But it's also but even then it's known income. It's it's not I'm gonna open this place up and sometimes I mean I know that sometimes the Airbnbs will it'll be someone's living there and then if someone happens to rent it it's like all right we're moving out for the weekend.
Or they'll use that to go on a trip somewhere else. That's why
Right.
I once stayed at a place.
Which sure
I
sounds
once
good.
stayed at a place and they said, no, when we get a rental, that's when we book a trip to somewhere else and we use that money for a free vacation somewhere else.
Oh yeah, I mean I stayed at an Airbnb in Paris and it was and clearly the people had been living there. They just kind of vacated the apartment for the 5 days we were there.
Yeah, right. Which they do.
That's so weird.
I've done that.
It's income, make some income, yeah. Like you
Yeah,
said, go on
they
vacation.
traveled. They
Yeah.
went to another country.
Yeah,
It's like a swap, like a home
they do
swap.
that a lot in Europe.
That's called home swap. That's the word.
So a lot to consider, a lot to think about.
So I think
Yeah, I'll start doing
Chris, as this is a discussion item, what are we trying to get out of this discussion?
At this
Is there-
point,
is
the
there-
dialogue you just had to find out, is this something you want to pursue? Bring
Or
some
regulate,
awareness,
right.
bring some awareness to it, saying, right now, they're not allowed. We do have a few here and there. Is this something that you're either concerned about those or about additional ones coming? Or is this something that you want to regulate? David raised a very good point. Is it better to know about them and regulate them? Or is it better to say, we don't want that and it should therefore not be allowed if it continues? So that's the kind of discussions that you can have from a policy
And
perspective.
presumably, if we don't know about it, it's probably because nobody is complaining about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's correct.
Right, I would
Yep.
agree, and
And
it's
people here like to complain, so we'd probably hear about it.
They do?
so. I would say let's consider it. Think between now and the next meeting about what your thoughts are, and at least then we'd be able to have the discussion of what, if any, direction we want to go in.
And maybe develop some more questions.
Right.
We'll do some of that research about, is there any other reports about the impact on
You won't be doing
neighbors?
any more research. Unless, like,
You'll have a lot of other research to
You'll
be
have
doing.
other research you'll be
You
fully
worked-
engaged in.
You worked on this all summer or however many weeks you did.
Yeah, for about
So
5
what
weeks.
what is your thought on this? Is this something that we should pay attention to? Do you think it's a risk for us? Do you think it should be regulated?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely worth it to have something in the books since there isn't anything right now. Even if it's just, like I said at the end of this memo sheet, that occupancy tax and just lumping in STRs with hotels, like how Newburgh and Kinston did, it's still just something that I think, you want to control before it gets too out of hand, because I don't think, not saying that you'll have the same issue as somewhere like Fort Lee, but if it goes unregulated and you have like a lot of complaints with people,
But if people are doing it now and it's illegal, how would we ever collect occupancy tax? Because nobody would ever tell us.
No.
Well,
If it's illegal, we would have to legalize
we would
it.
look on the website,
So what
find
you're
them, and
saying
say
is when it's
you need to
illegal,
get a
People
permit.
don't tell us. When it's legal, people are going to tell us if they're going to have to.
Well, we know that
No, we would make it.
we would go
make
on
it
the
legal
websites
and
to
then-
see where they are, and then say
and
you
then
need to
we would-
apply.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it
There's-
may be that, I mean, at the end of the day, it may just be that we try and enforce these so that we don't have any in.
If that's the policy direction.
If that's
yeah.
the policy direction we want to go.
Or we can make the companies liable for the registering of it.
I don't know how you.
I don't know how-
I don't know enough about.
That'd be
how they
easier to
work.
do that.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah. There's I forget which municipality I spoke with exactly, but there's this software called Granicus that they it was one of the ones in Dutchess, where they got a grant with Dutchess County to buy the software where it actually tracks all of the STRs and their addresses
Can we
in
use
and
that?
around
Interesting.
in and around the city. So I think that if you guys decide to put something in the books, then that's actually something that you could look into. Yeah.
But you can only track it if it's somehow it's publicly known that they're looking. In other words, if all these STRs are sort of sub rosa, and it's only, oh, Jason has a friend who's looking for a place, fine, I can give him a room. Nobody's ever gonna know about this. There'd be
Right,
no way to
it's only-
track something like
Only if it's advertised
Yeah.
on the sites.
Or if you look and you see, we'd have to go and look on the websites to see them,
Yeah.
like Jason just did
But
before.
if it's
or
all
Stephanie.
private transactions.
We all were.
Yeah.
It's gonna be very hard to track.
They're gonna be hitting Rybrook on Varbo tonight.
Yeah.
But you know, it's funny, like I said, literally this past weekend, 5 guys stayed 10 miles from the event, 9 miles from the event. Just because that was nearby, it fit with the number of beds we needed and bedrooms we needed, so that's what we
Right.
did.
Right, well, you can see.
But it's not, it was the only one in the community, but
Well, you can see when I did my search, quite frankly, it basically boasted that it was close to the Capitol Theater, close to Greenwich, et cetera.
come up for the weekend, yeah.
Yeah, that one in particular has a helicopter pad.
Yes, I thought that one was very attractive, the one she found for $18,000 a night.
Rybrook.
Maybe we can put that on the village's tab.
That'll pay
they
for
want
some
to guess?
vacation.
Maybe we could legalize all rentals for 18,000 a night.
That's it.
Perfectly legal.
How do you like that?
I saw it, I got
All right.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
year.
Research and everything you did.
Enjoy Ithaca.
That's only
That's
appraised at $1 million, right?
horrible.
They appraised it at $1 million, that canceled.
All right, so I think that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting. Any questions or comments from any members of the public?
I would have loved to live there.
Seeing none, the next meetings of the Board of Trustees will be September 12th and September 26th, 2023. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
26, thank you.
Wait, why do I have no?